Good morning, I'm Danny Laurel.
I'm Mary Monreyes.
And this is News and Views.
And for today, here are the headlines.
The confirmation of charges hearing against former President Rodrigo Duterte resumes today, centering on the defense's submissions on the merits of the case.
Vice President Sara Duterte became emotional at an event in Davao City as she reflects on what it would have been like if she had run for mayor instead.
Malacanang is dismissing the so-called money delivery scheme, which is set to be investigated by the Senate following the initiative of Senator Amy Marcos.
And in sports, Gilas Pilipinas braces for a tough challenge against New Zealand in the second window of the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers.
The confirmation of charges hearing against former President Rodrigo Duterte enters another crucial day. The defense is now expected to respond to the prosecution's arguments. As judges weigh whether the case will move forward to full trial over alleged crimes against humanity tied to the drug war, One News anchor Angela Lagunzad Castro is now reporting to us live from The Hague in the Netherlands. Angela, give us the latest.
Hi, Denise and Marimon. You're right. I'm still here in The Hague, the Netherlands, for the confirmation of charges of former President Rodrigo Duterte. And yesterday was a rest day for the ICC court, but you were able to go to a press conference held by the common legal representatives and with the Office of the Public Counsel for the Victims. Sila Paulina Masida and Attorney James Butuyan, or Joel Butuyan rather, and Attorney Gil Andres. In that press conference, they discussed the merits of their case and how confident they are that the case, the confirmation of charges will be, or the charges will be confirmed to move to a full trial. So in that press con, they also reiterated that when I asked a question, when I asked Attorney Gil Andres about what would they, what is their response to the claims of the defense that all the statements that were presented during the confirmation of charges by the prosecution is just rhetoric or hyperbole. And they said that everything, alam mo former President Rodrigo Duterte is a lawyer and also a prosecution. So he knows what the legal implications of all his statements were. And he also added that former president is the president of the Philippines at that time and the executive. So anything that he would say is a matter of policy. And given that yung word na kill is encouraged and commanded by him, it's already an admission. So yun yung mga ilang pinunto ng common legal representatives during the press con. And Paulina Masida of the Office of the Public Counsel for the Victims also her appointment because of the non-appearance of former President Rodrigo Duterte at his own confirmation of charges. So that was the activity yesterday. We were also, I was able to go to the Duterte Street yesterday also. Duterte Street is the place where all the supporters of a former president gather, to express their support for the former president. Ang lugar nito ay yun doon sa gilid ng ICC detention facility where the former president is currently detained. Normally or regularly, they would go there every day. They would gather, bring food, just socials lang, and to make sure that to let the former president that hindi daw siya nag-iisa sa labang ito. But yesterday was kind of special because for them, because some of the members of the Filipino legal team of the former president also visited. That's Attorney Sal Panelo, former LTFRB chairman Martin Delgra, and also former executive secretary Medial Dea. And in that gathering, we were able to talk to them. And of course, they were hoping to see the president before they flew here, no, they were hoping to see the president, pero kasi nagkaroon nga ng waiving of his rights itong si former president to attend the confirmation of charges. And ganun din, yesterday, approved na rin yung his waiving of rights again, no, to attend the detention review, no? Kasi supposedly after the closing statements of all the panels, ano, or all the parties involved, such as the defense and the prosecutors and the victims through their legal counsel, yung kanilang closing statements na yan, magkakaroon ng 1-hour detention review. No? This review under the ICC rule is a procedural requirement, no? Just to justify if yung pagstay ng isang respondent or ng accused ay nararapat pa doon sa kanilang facility. Yun muna yung latest here, but later today, we'll be expecting of course the side of the defense, headed by the Duterte's lawyer, Attorney Kaufman, to the presentation of the merits of the case. So yan yung aabangan natin, of course, yung pagkontra nila doon sa mga sinubmit ng prosecution and by the victims. Danny and Merrimon.
Ange, before we go to the defense case, I just wanted to understand kasi you mentioned na disappointed ang mga tao dyan na wala nga, hindi nila makita si former president. And he has also made some remarks, or at least on behalf of him, some have said that he was satisfied with how the defense handled at least the first day, the opening statements. What is the situation here? Kasi you're on the ground. Nakikita ba niya ang proceedings? Kasi wala naman siya sa chamber, di ba? Or is he updated afterwards? How does he know what is going on exactly? And
That's
also,
true.
is he available to discuss these things during this entire trial? Or talagang no interaction with him? And is there an expected interaction with him, with the crowd, or with the other team members, so to speak, the camp of Duterte that have flown in there maybe after Friday?
Right. You're right, Danny. Actually, kasama doon sa pag-waive ng rights si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa kanyang non-appearance sa kanyang own confirmation of charges ay yung hindi rin niya paggamit ng available online appearance. Kasi pwede rin yun, so sabi niya hindi na rin siya appear ng online. So I was able to talk to Attorney Kaufman, his legal counsel, the other day, and that's the reason why alam ninyo kung bakit alam ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte yung nangyari, because I asked him if he was able to talk to the former president after the presentation of merits of the case by the prosecution, and he said na yes, I was able to talk to him. Actually, when he went to the detention facility, he was riding a bike pa nga. So it was a content in the social media. Anyway, so he was able to talk to him. He updated him with what happened during that presentation of merits of the case. The response that we got from the former president is that he's happy. He's happy based on what Kaufman, or Attorney Kaufman, has said to him. Yun yung nangyari doon. And of course, during kasi this period of the confirmation of charges, Danny, naglabas din ng statement ang pretrial chamber na bawal muna ng visitors itong si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Yun yung kanilang naging rule doon. So I don't think there will be any chance for the Filipino legal team of the former president to meet him at this point because bawal pa yun. But according to Attorney Salpanello, he said that after this series of hearing in the ICC, he would meet up with the team of Attorney Kaufman for consultations and other steps to to discuss regarding this case. But of course, hanggang dun lang yung magiging papel nila Attorney Sal Panelo and the rest of the Filipino legal team, because none of them is accredited by the ICC to go in that court. But I was able to talk to Attorney Sal Panelo off air, and he told me na his son, Attorney Paulo Panelo, has filed an application for him to get accreditation sa ICC because he believes na dapat may Filipinong lawyer na kasama sa team itong si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. So sabi ko, baka ilang araw o ilang weeks ba yun o ilang months ba, matagal ba para accredit? Kasi hindi, madali lang yan. So we'll see kung anong mangyayari. So yun yung mga aabangan natin. Danny.
No phone calls then, Ange?
At this point, we don't know kung no phone calls. Basta ang sabi lang ng ICC, no visitation for this duration of confirmation of charges.
Okay. I think, Angela, on the sides naman, gusto ko rin tanungin, we saw you taking a photo of families of EJK victims na nagsa-circulate ngayon and gaining traction for a whole different reason. Kasi parang yung isang photo yata na version nung originally taken by you was this EJK's victims' relatives are holding luxurious bags. Pero can you take us through ano bang nangyari talaga behind the photo?
Okay, for context, Merrimon, that photo was taken during a press conference organized by the Duterte Panagutin Network. And that press con was held a day before the confirmation of charges started. Okay, so when I went in that room, I saw itong tatlo na ito. Kasi yung nasa kaliwa, yung hindi naka-black, ay si Ma'am Rubilin. Siya yung one of the conveners of Rise Up organization. Yan yung mga samahan ng mga biktima, family ng mga biktima ng EJK. These two women na naka-black, yung nasa gitna, si Ma'am Lore Pasco, ay ang kanyang dalawang anak ay biktima rin ng EJK. And then the other girl, si Shira Escudero, is ang story naman niya, yung brother niya, ang biktima ng EJK. So I went up to them. I finally met Attorney Cristina Conti in person, and as she introduced me to them, and sinabi ko baka pwede silang kuhanan ng statement, but they said na after the press con na lang. So I said, okay, sige, I'll just get your names, and then can I take your picture? And I was the one who told them specifically to stand up for a better angle, para mas makita sila. And at that particular moment, wala naman akong nakitang hawak nila na luxury bags, when I took the picture. And if I can remember it correctly, I was the only one who took that picture there with Attorney Cristina Conti on my side. And then there are other people, but I don't know them. Pero I would really remember na ako lang talaga, pero I wouldn't know kung meron pa. Pero talagang nung nakita ko yung wala silang luxury bags. And the entire time that we were in that room, I didn't see any luxury bag na hawak-hawak nila. And I was, closely checking the details of that fake photo. And nakalagay dun sa photo kasi dun kay Shira na may hawak siyang bag. And then there are rings dun sa mga fingers niya. And then I reviewed the videos of that press conference. Habang nagsasalita itong si Shira, nagkakaroon siya ng mga hand gestures, and then I examined it na wala naman talaga siyang rings. So talagang itong photo na fake, this happened pa right after nagkaroon ng mga statements ng prosecutor na sinasabi nila the war on drugs is war on the poor. Tapos syempre ang pinapalabas nung whoever did this photo ay sinasabi na, di naman poor to, di ba? Tapos there are also claims na talagang kumukuha sila ng pera, di ba? Kaya that's why there were statements to clear na hindi sila kumukuha ng, yung nagfa-fund ng travel nila ay from different people, volunteers and organizations, at not any from the government. Danny and Mary, Mon.
Ange, let's go back to the arguments expected for today, no? So they will
Yes.
basically rebut, or the defense is going to defend
That's right.
the prosecution's arguments. You were able to talk to Attorney Kaufman of the defense. What can we expect? Are there anything new that could happen now because they've heard the prosecution side?
Of course, he said, he will not discuss the merits of the case with us, but he said that the team led by him is ready to face the pre-trial chamber 1 today, for the submission on the merits of the case. So we'll be expecting more on attack, on state policy element, they would have to attack crimes or state, evidence about these crimes against humanity that would require proof of widespread of systematic attack directed against civilians pursuant to a state or organizational policy, and they would argue most probably they would challenge the evidence credibility, they would question insider witnesses, because if you can remember, Danny, during the presentation of the prosecution, they would always mention a witness, an insider witness from an insider witness. They would get information from them, they would question that insider witnesses, the credibility, and they would challenge chain of command evidence. As much as possible, they would prove, they would challenge and they would prove in that presentation na walang kinalaman si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte in the crimes na pinupukol against him. So yun yung mga aasahan natin sa kanila. And to add, this is actually going to be the first time that we would see, aside from his opening statement, ito si Attorney Kaufman, in his element, kumbaga, because sabi nga nila, he's a rock star in this arena. He was a former prosecutor in the ICC before becoming the defense lawyer. So we will see kung paano niya i-rebut itong magiging presentation niya mamaya sa hearing. But of course, after this, until tomorrow, he was given another day tomorrow to present everything. Then after that, there will be a closing statement for the defense, the victims through their legal counsel, and of course, the prosecution. Tinanong ko nga si Attorney Gilbert Andres kung ano ba mangyayari doon, or magkakaroon ba ng debate or whatever. Sabi niya, there will be a little rebuttal on the side, kasi we will have to prove, we will have to convince the pre-trial chamber judges that may evidence, there is sufficient evidence, there's sufficient merit in the case to proceed to the full trial. But on the other hand, on the other side of the fence, the Attorney Kaufman will have to prove, and this will have to convince the judges na walang kinalaman si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte dito, at kailangan nilang i-prove yun. So we will see yung, kumbaga, tagisan ng talino ng mga lawyers here by tomorrow. Danny?
Angela, I think kasi after nito, 'di ba, within 60 days yung magiging decision
Yes.
ng ICC. Pero after niyan, meron din yung tinatawag na review of detention of the former president. Were there anything mentioned kung ano ba yung nitty-gritties na matatalakay doon?
Okay, anyway, the ICC, for context, under the rules of ICC, itong detention review refers to the court's regular check on whether he should remain in ICC custody while the case is ongoing. So basically, just to justify, to make sure continued detention niya ay justified. So there will be talks about should he stay there, detained, or can he be released temporarily under hindi natin alam. So that it's going to be parang an hour process, review on Friday regarding this issue. So kumbaga, as I've said earlier, this is just a procedural thing. Sabi nga ni Attorney Nery Colmenares at ni Attorney Cristina Conti, nothing to worry about. Kasi standard lang, ng sa ICC rule nila. Anyone na kung sino man yung nandoon na nakadetain sa kanila, laging may review of detention. Different from the request of interim release, kasi yung request of interim release would be coming from the side ng accused or ng respondent.
Okay, so for this detention hearing, just to be clear, is there exactly that? Is the former president asking for a temporary release, and will that be tackled due to, I don't know, health issues or anything like this? Or wala naman siyang hinihiling and this is just confirmation of the status quo?
No, this detention review is initiated by the ICC rules, no. Hindi ito nanggaling sa side ng defense. Ito ay under the rule na every certain number of months merong mga review of detention. Kasama na rin, I think, yung well-being ng accused or ng respondent. Pero hindi ito request ng defense. So, manggagaling ito sa ICC. Sila yung merong, kumbaga, rule, no? House rules nila to, na i-check nila to justify na nasa kanila pa rin nakadetain itong respondent or accused, no? Yun yung kanilang ginagawa.
All right. Well, pahinga ka muna dyan, Ange. I know it's 3 in the morning and there's a lot to be covering. You will have another 6 hours
It's a long day for me
again. It's a long day for you. Thank you very much, One News anchor Angela Lagunzad Castro reporting to us live from The Hague in the Netherlands.
And now next on the news, as mentioned, all eyes are now on the day 3 of the International Criminal Court's confirmation of charges hearing against former President Duterte. After 2 days of detailed presentations by prosecutors, the defense is expected to present its case on the merits, with about 3.5 hours allotted, the longest block for any party during the 4-day hearing. Legal observers say the prosecution has so far laid out what they describe as an airtight case, presenting documents, speeches, and alleged command structures linking Duterte to a nationwide system of killings tied to the drug war. The defense, led by lawyer Nicholas Kaufman, is now expected to respond directly to the evidence after focusing its opening statement on claims of political persecution rather than rebutting the prosecution's claims. The confirmation hearing wraps up on day 4 with closing statements, after which ICC judges will have up to 60 days to decide whether the case will proceed to full trial.
Meanwhile, Vice President Sara Duterte became teary-eyed at an event organized by the Philippine Association of Local Government Accountants in Davao City on Wednesday. She was especially moved upon seeing her former colleagues at the Davao City Hall. VP Sara even reflected on what it would have been like if she had run for mayor instead of for vice president.
Kanina, nakauna-una ko sa ako ang kaugalingon. Kung sa kahaog, nidagan na lang ko o mayor. Wala na lang ko nidagan o vice president.
The vice president then reiterated that she will run for president in the 2028 elections.
Pag nidagan na ito, presidente, okay na na. Okay na ng pagdagan sa presidente, nagkasinabot na taan ng tanan na dapat.
And now from the Congress, one version of the anti-political dynasty bill is gaining traction in the lower chamber with more than 100 lawmakers backing the proposal. Mobile journalist Amy Atienza with the details.
The House Suffrage and Electoral Reforms Committee looks further into the House Bill 6771 prohibiting political dynasties in the country, filed by House Speaker Bogie D. III and Majority Leader Sandro Marcos. Under this bill, spouses and other covered relatives are not allowed from simultaneously holding electoral positions under the same area. According to committee chairperson Zia Alonto Adiong, the bill already has 144 authors as of date.
Yung House Bill 6771, which is the version authored by Speaker Faustino Bogie D. III and our Majority Leader, has the most number of co-authors. Mukhang 100 plus na sila co-authors nitong katas na ito. So, kung titignan po natin kung sino yung may suporta talaga at sino talaga yung may backing, itong House Bill 6771.
So far, I think our group will agree that the best approach is House Bill 6771 with Speaker Bogie and Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, because it is congruent with the constitutional intent, but at the same time, it balances it. balances it with what is the political reality and what is necessary sa.
Just recently, the committee held public consultations in Cavite, Cebu, and Cagayan de Oro to gather the public's perspectives on the degree of consanguinity that shall be implemented along with the anti-political dynasty bill.
There is no single uniform position. Some advocate for stricter and broader prohibition, while others emphasize safeguards for the constitutional right to vote and to seek public office. Many raised important questions about degrees of relationship, levels of ban, and enforceability.
As for the timeline, Representative Adyong assured that the committee may pass the bill before the President's 2026 State of the Nation address.
What I can tell you is under yung process po ng consolidation at next week magkakaroon na tayo ng immediate action. So due na siya for next week na tapos.
Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You are still watching News and Views here on One News. Next on the news, Senator Amy Marcos is pushing for a legislative probe on the so-called money delivering scheme involving lawmakers. Here is the report.
Of the 18 individuals who introduced themselves as former soldiers and Marines allegedly serving as political bagmen, most were reportedly dishonorably discharged from service. Based on official records, the Philippine Navy confirmed that the majority were removed from service under dishonorable conditions, while some were able to retire in good standing. The Navy also clarified that 2 of the individuals were never members of the Philippine Navy or the Philippine Marine Corps. According to Attorney Levy Baligod, this was also reflected in the affidavits of the individuals.
The 18 never claimed that all of them belong to the Marine Corps. 2 of them, in fact, in the affidavit, in my possession, claimed that they were former Army, not with the Philippine Marine.
However, during an interview with Storycon, Baligod appeared to backtrack on some of his earlier statements. He insisted that he never said $2 million had been sent to the International Criminal Court from the alleged bagmen.
There is nothing in the affidavit, and also I did not say anything that the $2 million went to the ICC.
But in the press conference a day earlier, Baligod said the bagmen were allegedly instructed to exchange the contents of 2 suitcases, each containing 56 million pesos, into US dollars equivalent to about $2 million. He earlier claimed that the money was being prepared for the arrival of foreigners, later identified as ICC investigators.
Ang sabi ng mga executive assistants ni Ginoong Saldico ay pinaghahandaan daw nila ang pagdating ng foreigners. At kalaunan ay nakilala ng mga ito na ang foreigners na binabanggit ay mga ICC investigators.
Baligod also maintained that money was allegedly given to former Senator Antonio Trillanes in connection with the ICC investigation into the case of former President Rodrigo Duterte, though he did not specify the amount. He further alleged that accommodations and expenses of certain individuals were paid for, which he described as corruption and bribery. Trillanes has already denied the accusations. Malacanang has also dismissed the claims, including allegations that suitcases of money were delivered to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The palace said it's leaving the matter to the NBI and PNP for investigation.
Lousy script, hindi pang award-winning. Hindi malinis, alam mo na may kasinungalingan.
Also named as an alleged recipient of money was MMDA General Manager Nicolas Torre III, who was reserved comment pending proof.
Kasi hindi nga natin alam kung yan ay kaya nilang isubstantiate at tataasan nila ng kamay para sila ay mag-subscribe dyan.
Meanwhile, Senator Amy Marcos has filed a resolution seeking a Senate investigation.
Kung may paratang, ilatag ninyo ng malinaw. Kung may ebidensya, ilabas ninyo ng buong tapang. Kumbaga sa maleta, Mananatiling sikreto ang laman niyan kung hindi ilalatag sa lamesa at bubuksan. Dito natin buksan sa Senado at suriin ang maleta ng katotohanan. Hindi maaring trial by publicity ang mangyari.
Former and incumbent lawmakers have denied allegations by 18 former soldiers that they received suitcases of cash from resigned Congressman Zaldico. Here is that report.
Several lawmakers have denied allegations that they received cash from former Congressman Zaldico, as claimed by 18 former soldiers. In an unsigned affidavit, the former soldiers allege that they were instructed to escort and deliver suitcases of cash to certain congressmen. Most of those named are lawmakers who served during the height of the Quadcom and good government hearings involving POGOs, extrajudicial killings, and confidential funds linked to Vice President Sara Duterte. Among those named is Mamamayang Liberal Party List Representative Leila De Lima, who firmly rejected the allegations. She described the claims as absurd and a demolition job. De Lima also questioned the timing, which coincided with a confirmation of charges hearing against former President Rodrigo Duterte at the International Criminal Court and impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte. Former Makabayan Bloc Representatives Franz Castro, Arlene Rosas, and Raul Manuel also denied the allegations, calling them baseless and aimed at discrediting legitimate efforts to uncover the truth. They said the claims were politically motivated, designed to portray the investigations against the Dutertes as partisan, a classic Duterte playbook. Even Manila 6th District Representative Benny Abante rejected the allegations, emphasizing that he would not be deterred by fabricated claims and would continue to fight for justice. Other House leaders dismissed the allegations as delusional and nonsense.
Mahirap talaga pag meron kang sariling mundo. Dilulu. Dilulu tawag sa mga ganyan. So, hindi natin masyado binibigyan ng pansin dahil wala naman pong katotohanan doon. So, yun lang po. Huwag tayong dilulu.
It's all BS. I'm sorry. They don't even deserve a decent response from me. But what I can tell you is those who are behind their supposed press con, they have not achieved anything but present themselves as National Marites Council.
And I think on that note, the government is also looking into the identity of those 18 who threw the allegations, if each and every one are actually former soldiers. But now, next on the news, Senator Bato de la Rosa is now facing an ethics complaint over his prolonged absence. Anti-corruption group Wag Kang Kukurap filed the complaint on Wednesday. De la Rosa last attended a Senate session in November 2025. Ethics Committee Chairman Senator J.V. Ejercito gave his assurance that they will tackle the complaint against De La Rosa. Meanwhile, Senate President Tito Soto has rejected calls to shut down De La Rosa's office.
Dahil kung ordinary yung mamamayan, kung hindi po pasok sa trabaho, di ba, napafire, nawawalan ng trabaho. Dapat po same ethical standard nag-apply din sa senador.
Maraming empleyado yun, nagtatrabaho yung mga empleyado, nagsasubmit sila ng mga bills, nagsasubmit sila ng mga komentaryo nila at ng mga perspective nila about the bills that are being discussed. It could be coming from Senator Bato himself or the advisors or the legal people of Senator De La Rosa.
Yung sweldo,
so mahirap yun.
And to talk us through this, joining us now is political scientist Antonio Contreras. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Prof, let's kick off with the Senator Bato de la Rosa's absences at the Senate since November of 2025. How should the Senate Ethics Committee handle this complaint? Is this something, can they actually stop the salary of the senator for now? They've been said that they need to assure him that he will not be arrested, at least while the Senate is in session. What can be done right now?
Well, I think the Senate should understand that they're paid coming from taxpayers' monies. And so it is not a private corporation or private entity. It is a government agency. At sa gobyerno, katulad ko, nagtatrabaho ko sa UP. Kapag matagal akong hindi pumasok, abay talagang matatanggal ako sa trabaho. So I think the Senate should be very careful in making this impression, giving this impression na merong ibang batas, ibang panuntunan sa mga senador at iba sa mga ordinaryong empleyado ng gobyerno. Kahit nga sa private sector kapag hindi ka pumasok na makayo dyan sa network nyo, pag hindi ka pumasok na matagal na kayo sigurong sesante.
Sir, just, from a logistical perspective, ano yung possible ba na mangyari? I mean, can you actually fire a senator? He's been elected into office. Is there a suspension period that can be observed? Can you just simply say no salary? Who makes these decisions? May voting pa ba yan?
Well, the plenary has a power. They have a power to expel. They have a power to discipline their members. They have an ethics committee. And so, I think this is already an ethical transgression. Hindi mo ginagawa trabaho mo for no reason at all except that you're afraid that you will be arrested. Diba? This is something, wala pa namang arrest warrant sa kanya. But si Senator Bongo nga na kasama niya na-implicate, na andyan pumapasok. So therefore, ang tanong dito, ano ba talaga ang pamantayan? Sa pangyayaring ito, lumabas tuloy ngayon na walang definite na protocol ang Senado tungkol sa ganitong sitwasyon. Samantalang sa lahat ng opisina, mapapribado man o gobyerno, may panuntunan, may manual na nagsasabi kung hanggang kailan lang ikaw pwede mag-awol.
Professor, I think kasi kanina lang, a few minutes ago, sabi ni Ethics Committee Chair Senator J.V. Ejercito, I think the earliest na pwede makapag-schedule ang Ethics Committee for a meeting is March 10 due to room unavailability. Pero they're asking permission from Senate President Tito Soto if they could use the Senator's Lounge. Pero should that happen, dapat ba mapag-usapan din na kung magkakaroon ng no work, no salary dito kay Senator Bato, should that also include his office, his staff? Kasi sa pagtatanong din naman namin, tuloy-tuloy pa rin naman daw yung operations nila even though continuing yung physical absence ni Senator from the Senate.
Well, I think it's important to understand that the Senate office must be separate from the person who is absent. If the person who is absent is the senator, then let the senator be isolated from the penalty. Kawawa nga naman yung empleyado na pumapasok, nagtatrabaho kahit wala yung boss nila. So siguro ibang usapan yun. Hayaan mo na ang Senado magdetermina yan, pero kung akong tatanungin mo, separate yung issue doon sa mga nagtatrabaho na pumapasok. Nagkataon lang yung boss nila ang wala.
Okay. Sir, you mentioned that this walang rules ang Senate dito. I'm sure you've been covering this for a very long time in your career. Hindi pa ba ito nangyari before? It's hard for me to imagine na every senator we've had, every congressman has been present, has been doing their job completely, na walang nangyaring ganitong kaso na kailangan isuspend or hindi lang talaga pumapasok.
Ano mo nangyari, di ba, in the past, si Senator Laila de Lima, dating senador, nakakulong na siya, pero siya pa nga yung nagpupumilit na kung pwede ako yung attend ng session kahit online. Okay. Right? Kung natandaan nyo yan, siya tinanggihan ng Senado. Di ba? Andun yung wala na siya physically, pero gusto niya magtrabaho. Ito namang isa, hindi naman nakukulong, ayaw magtrabaho. So, sa tingin ko, the fact na hindi consistent ang rule ng Senado, wala silang rule. Lumalabas na wala silang protocol dito. And I think it's about time they should have. Kasi muli, I would like to emphasize that, ang perang ginagamit sa pagpapasweldo kay Bato, at yan ay hindi birong pera, malaki yan dahil senador siya, ay galing sa bulsa ng bayan.
And sir, are you in favor of, just for the fact that he should go back to work, he should have this level of protection na hindi siya maaresto for as long as the Senate is in hearing?
Well, that is already standard. Di ba sinasabi naman natin yan na merong rule sa Constitution ng ganyan.
Okay.
Na hindi ka pwedeng arestahin. Kaya nga lang ang problema, maaring hindi mag-apply kay Bato de la Rosa. Sapagkat kung sakali man na merong arrest warrant sa kanya, ang penalty is more than 6 years. Nakalagay sa saligang batas, ang pwede lang protektahan ng immunity from arrest while the Senate is in session are those acts punishable by an imprisonment of no more than 6 years. Ang crime against humanity, meron tayong RA 9851, reclusion perpetua yan. Hindi ba? Sobrang-sobra sa 6 na buwan. 6 na taon. So, sa tingin ko, yun ang kinakatakot niya. Pero yun nga yung point dito, pati niya tularan na lang si Bongo, hinaharap ang trabaho kahit andyan yung nakaambang aresta sa kanya.
Oo nga, Prof. Ang sabi nga ni Senator Go, trabaho raw muna, antabayan na lang daw muna yung confirmation of charges ni Tatay Digong niya sa The Hague. Pero should anything circulate pa ba? Do you think itong ethics complaint? Kasi I think si former Senator Sonny Trillanes is also planning to file, pero parang naunahan na nga siya nitong wag kang ko-corrupt. Do you think this is gonna be a niche na on how the Senate should handle extended or strenuous absences from the Senate?
Well, I think it's about time that the Senate should act. At mabutit nag-file na sila Professor Magno ng complaint. At sana ipakita nila talaga sa lahat ng tao na walang pare-pareho ang rule. Hindi pwede porket senador ka, mataas ang posisyon mo, exempted ka sa panuntunan ng pagtatrabaho na binabayaran ka ng sahod, hindi mo naman ginagawa, hindi mo naman nagagampanan. Sapagkat inuulit ko, tayo lahat, kapag tayo ganyan natin ang ating opisina ng ginagawa ni Senator Bato, matagal na tayong natanggal sa trabaho.
Continuing on that theme, there are also, I guess, let's say, rhetorical statements, for example, from the palace, from spokesperson Castro, regarding VP Sara's absences or her actually not fulfilling her duties. What about other people in office apart from the Senate, and how can we push these people to work for the public?
Well, that is precisely the point I'm trying to make. Like Sara Duterte also loves to travel, go to abroad. But kung binigyan naman siya ng travel authority, yun ang tanong, kung binigyan siya ng travel authority ng kanyang, ng Malacanang, hindi ko alam kung sino nagbibigay ng travel authority sa Vice President. Kasi ako bilang isang ordinaryong nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno at makaka-relate dito lahat ng nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno. Hindi po kami pwedeng lumabas ng bansa na walang travel authority. Ang tawag namin doon ay yellow form. Okay. Hindi ka pwedeng haharangin ka sa immigration. Kung ikaw ay wala may papel travel authority, sasabihin anong authority mo to travel. At kahit nga po kami ay bakasyon, kahit hindi official ang travel namin, kunyari bakasyon, Christmas, nagbakasyon ka, kailangan mo pa rin ng travel authority. At sa ibang opisina, very strict pa na, kunyari, meron kong konferensyang inattendan, dapat one day before and one day after lang ang pwedeng allowed ka. Pag mag-exceed ka pa doon, dapat humingi ka man ng permission. Ikaw ay papayagan. Magbabakasyon ka ng kaunting araw. So itong mga travel na to, katulad ni Vice President Sara Duterte, ang tanong ko, sila ba exempted sa ganon? Wala bang, kasi kung naman may pumirma ng travel authority sa kanya, walang problema. Kunyari, yung pagbabakasyon, hindi na napapansin nyo, wala nga si Leandro Leviste. Di ba? Hindi natin siya nakikita. Nasa abroad ba siya? Yung ba'y pinirmahan ng speaker? Kasi kung pinirmahan naman, walang problema. Itong kay Bato de la Rosa, obviously, hindi ito otorisado ng Senado.
Prof, I think yung kasabay kasi nito, may mga pictures din na nagsisirculate itong si Senator Bato na his, maybe a chapel or maybe a church posted by his wife. Do you think it's just a way of gaining is it a normal posting lang, or is it can we see it as a strategy to maybe misdirect misdirect the people, or maybe authorities potentially looking for him?
Well, kung hindi siya nagtatago, bakit hindi lang siya muna magtrabaho? May trabaho siyang regular na sinisweldohan. Umattend siya ng hearing, umattend siya ng session, magpakita siya. Hindi pwede yung pinapakita lang yung mga simbahan. Hindi madali namang AI. Ito ang background ko, background ng building yan, pero hindi naman ako nasa harap ng building na yan. Picture lang yan ng building.
Kaya pala.
Hindi ba? So therefore, ako yung nakuupo ngayon sa opisina ko, pero ang background ko, building. So therefore, it's very easy to do these things now.
Ba't di niya daw gawin? Sir, let's move to another issue. Anong basa mo dito sa claims ng 18 quote-unquote former Marines? No, they're still verifying if all of these, I think 2 of them are actually not. About the cash deliveries to several politicians. Who do you think is behind this? And if so, what is there to even be gained by these allegations?
Alam mo, nakalulungkot at nakakatawa. Nakalulungkot kasi para bagang ano ba tong nangyayari sa bansa natin ngayon, na para bagang deliberate na parang blatantly gumagawa ng kwento, naghahabi ang mga tao para lang ma-destabilize ang gobyerno o kaya mapagsilbihan ang partisanong interes ng kanilang mga panig na sinusuportahan. Halata naman kasi Ngayon nagbabago-bago na sila ng statement katulad nitong ni Attorney Baligod doon sa interview na napanood ko kahapon. Tinanggi niya yung mga hindi naman doon niya sinabi na may koneksyon sa ICC ito. Ngayon nag-iiba na naman ng salita. Hindi matandaan na yung apat pala doon ay hindi naman pala Marine, hindi lang dadalawa, hindi naman talaga man lang lumabas ang pangalan nila sa roster. So doon na lang makikita mo may credibility problem. Tapos sasabihin si Pangulong Marcos ang kanilang nag-deliver sila ng pera sa Paway. Samantalang alam naman ng lahat na wala ng bahay ang mga Marcos sa Paway. Museum na yon. Sa lawag na sila nakatira, yung bahay niya at least. So, ang dami tapos makikita mo pa yung mga pictures ngayon, mga images, binabase nila, na madali namang doktorin. At kitang-kita nga natin doon sa isang background, yung iba yung number ng parang RP8811 sa background, yung isa man RP8111. So, if you have these things, ang tao naman hindi naman tanga. Parang ang timing na lang nito, the day before the EDSA, while nasa kainitan tayo ng hearings ng confirmation of charges sa ICC, magsisimula na ang hearing sa House of Justice Committee sa Lunes regarding the impeachment complaint against Sara Duterte. So, na madali mong mapagtagpi-tagpi itong mga to na para bagang ayaw pa nilang tumigil. Nung una, napatunayan na maaring hindi credible yung mga maleta nilang pinakita. Hanggang ngayon, maleta pa rin. Ako nga sabi ko, gano'n na ba kabigat yung maliit na maletang yun na parang 3 tao pa na Marine ay kailangan magtulungan para bitbitin. May at saka yun, nag-iiba-iba sila ng salita. And the fact that they already came out with a press conference on an affidavit that is unsigned. These are things that really you have to ask, who are the characters behind this? And you're going to hear names that have always been associated with destabilization recently. So, ganun na ba talaga mahal ba talaga nila ang bayan? O ang mahal lang nila yung kanilang mga sinusulong na interes?
Prof, last question na lang for us. Si Senator Ping Lacson, Chairman ng Blue Ribbon Committee, we're waiting for the signatures ng kanyang Blue Ribbon Committee report ng committee. Pero should these allegations, either shake the direction of the Blue Ribbon? Sabi naman ni Senator Ping, blindfold approach sila kung saan sila malilid ng evidences. They'll go from there. Pero should they consider itong new allegations naman? If not new, a repetition of allegations being brought up by the past months?
The allegations right now have no probative value except for media mileage, and noise. So the draft report that is being circulated in the Senate is a product of validated information, of hearings where people were under oath. I think they should proceed with that. And then kasi if they're going to stop and say, teka, kulang pa, patinggan natin itong sinasabi ng 18, para na rin lang binigyan ng credence yung credibility ng mga yon. So I think they should proceed and have the report approved by the Senate or acted upon by the Senate accordingly. And then tama naman siya na kung saan dalhin ng ebidensya kung mayroon mang ebidensya. Kasi parang striptease sila. Narinig ko sa defensor, nagsabi mayroon pa daw part 2. Ano ba sila? Para baka silang talagang kongko ang kanilang, parang saldi ko, mayroong part 1, may part 2 pa yung kanyang video. Ito ganun din, may part 2. Na parang sino na lang bang naniniwala sa kanila kundi yung gusto rin nung dati na maniniwala sa kanila. So they're making a mockery of people's patience and in the end, I think the more they do this, the more the credibility is going down the drains.
All right, we have more questions for you, pero we'll save that for later. Thank you for your time and insights, political scientist Antonio Contreras.
Thank you.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are still watching News and Views here on One News. Rallies were held across the country on February 25th to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution, the peaceful movement that restored Philippine democracy 40 years ago. Mobile journalist Arles de los Santos with this story.
The EDSA People Power Revolution ended former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr.'s 2-decade-long dictatorship. Unlike in the past administrations, this year's anniversary is again simply being observed as a special working day. No holiday declaration nor special observance from the late dictator's namesake, now President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. But this did not stop various groups in remembering the peaceful revolution. Rallies were held across the country, including one at the EDSA Shrine, organized by Bayan and other progressive groups. As it was in 1986, people are still protesting the same issue, corruption.
Hanggang ngayon po, 40 taon na ang nakaraan, nandito pa rin ang korupsyon, nandito rin po ang paghihirap ng bayan, kaya importante po na may pasa na po ang anti-dynasty bill.
Sana po'y mabuhay muli yung diwa ng people power kung saan inangkin ng taong bayan ang kapangyarihan dito sa ating bansa. Inangkin natin ang responsibilidad na maging parte sa solusyon sa ating bayan dahil yun po ang kailangan natin gawin sa isang demokrasya.
The groups reenacted historic scenes from 1986 like the salubong of then Defense Chief Juan Ponce Enrile and AFP Vice Chief of Staff Fidel Ramos before marching towards the People Power Monument where the Trillion Peso March movement held its own program. Wednesday's EDSA commemoration was generally peaceful, except for a brief scuffle between Bayan-led protesters and the police. Authorities barred the group from bringing a truck platform as they marched towards the EDSA Shrine.
Ang problema, pagtipon namin kanina, ayaw na pumayag ng pulis. Kasi bawal daw ang truck sa EDSA. Kasi sabi namin, ito pa lang usapan namin kahapon. Sabi namin, mas magulo. Kung hayaan nyo lang basta pumasok ng tao na walang stage, walang sound system, eh yun daw ang utos na nasa taas. Kaya ito nangyari. Naparahan natin ang matigas na hindi naman dapat. At ngayon, naghahabol ng pulis, bakit daw hindi ilagay ang stage? Eh sinangulo pa na sila nagbawal ng stage. Diba? Malinaw-linaw lang usapan.
Students from various universities also took part in this year's EDSA commemoration. Those from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines in Santa Mesa walked out of their classes to join the rallies along EDSA. The 40th anniversary of the EDSA revolution ended with a program at the People Power Monument. As for the palace, there was no message from the president. But Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said President Marcos remains open to studying proposals to declare February 25 as a holiday again.
It's part of the history. Hindi ito mabubura. Hindi mabubura kung anong naganap noon, ang katapangan ng mga Pilipino, ang pagtanggap sa pangyayari. Hindi po yan mabubura sa history.
Kapatid Arles de los Santos, we are One News.
And here are some of the latest developments in sports. Gilas Pilipinas faces a tough test as it takes on New Zealand in the second window of the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers. The Nationals are eyeing a 3-0 record in Group A after sweeping Guam in the opening window. A win against the Tall Blacks would move Gilas closer to the next round of the qualifiers. Tip-off is at 7:30 tonight at the SM Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay City. And in the UAAP, UST Golden Tigresses finally notched their first win in the women's volleyball tournament. They overcame the Ateneo Blue Eagles in straight sets with Ange Poyos leading the way with a game-high 21 points. Meanwhile, the DLSU Lady Spikers continued their hot start to the season with another commanding victory, sweeping the UP Fighting Maroons in straight sets.
And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views. I'm Dani Laurel.
And I'm Mary Mon Reyes. Mga kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time.